Good evening, folks. Welcome back to another Monday night live stream. Hope everybody is really well. Hope you had a fantastic weekend. First of all, I want to kind of just check and make sure everything is okay at your end. As you can see, slight change of scenery tonight. My wife's away with work. The little one's upstairs in bed. And where my studio is out in the garage, it's not great if I'm here on my own to be able to try and run it in and out of the house. So a bit of a kind of guerrilla setup here. I've got all sorts of stuff on my table here that kind of cobbled together. So I hope everything's working. The sound might be a little bit echoey as it's in my living room, and it's just a bit more echoey than a different kind of room. So I hope everything's okay. Let me know in the chat if it sounds all right. Not as much I can do about it, but at least you know the reasons for it now. So, yep, everyone's saying sounds okay. Phew. I had a few technical glitches with setting it up tonight, and I thought I was going to have to call the stream off, but anyway, I managed to get them fixed. So, let's have... I'm just reading what Peter's in there. I seem to be hallucinating drink bottles. Do you know what it is? I am not a big drinker, although that shelf would kind of make me look like a liar. They're pretty much all gifts and presents we've had over time. They're just nice bottles, so they go on a shelf out of the reach of my little one. Everybody's asking for drinks at the bar now. Let's see who we've got in. So, right at the start of the evening, we certainly had Peter Nicholas was one of the first in earlier on today, so hello, Peter. We got Steve Evans in, we got Mark Berracloth in as well. Peter Nicholas was in as well early. Richard Smith was in. Hello to all you fine gentlemen. Daniel Engels just nipping in for a little bit at the start of the chat, and then he's off to, I think he said hockey. Oh no, he's off to, Daniel's off to work. There's somebody else off to hockey with the kids. Christopher Warden's in. Good afternoon, Chris. How you doing? And where are we? Andrew Fairbanks is in nice and early as well. Hello, buddy. He's just managed to get out of jury service, which is not a bad thing. Christian, thank you very much for coming in again, Christian, mate, helping out with the stream. Much appreciated. Please, everybody, show your appreciation for the work that Christian does to help me out as well. Jim Zom, greetings, mate. He was the one that's off to take the kid to hockey practice. Nice to see you in, nice and sharp as well, mate, as well. We've got Dice Tails in. Hey. Hello, Mark. Tony Howell's in, says hello, you lovely people. Hey, Tony. Deep Red, hail and well met legacies and slow growers. Yes, slow grow is coming up to its first milestone. I always forget what to call it. Coming up to the first milestone now, which is 250 points. People seem to be a mix of still kind of getting set up. Some people have started a little bit late. If you're still interested in joining in the slow grow campaign for Kings of War, please do join in. It's not meant to be a punishment if you miss any deadlines. It's meant to be there to try and motivate you. But yeah, just get involved. If it means you've got to take an extra month on the end of it, if it means you want to do a little bit more during the summer holidays or something, just get stuck in it. It's about everybody kind of coming together and trying to get it done. Speaking of deadlines, we've also got the deadline for the BlackJack Legacy Painting Challenge as well, which is happening, which is about colours, painting something nice and kind of, I would say bright, but it doesn't have to be. Painting colours maybe you don't normally use. If you haven't joined in with that this month, check it out. As of the 1st of February, there'll be a new challenge and something to get your teeth into for February. So don't miss out on that one. We've got, is it Vilua or Vilua? I think it is. Hello, everyone. Hello to you. Kieran Morris is in as well. Hello, Kieran. Al Cluley's in as well. Evening, Al. He says, good evening, everyone. Hope you're well. Curious subject tonight. Good point as any to tell you what the subject is. So for those that didn't see the title at the start or haven't seen what the subject is, tonight's subject is about making money from your hobby in 2020. And that's maybe a little bit misleading because it's not just about making money. I'm not talking about turning your hobby into a full-time job. I'm talking about trying to make a little bit of extra cash that might help you supplement your hobby to make your hobby either more affordable or maybe make it cost neutral. And of course, you could do more of this, which would then make you money as well and turn you out a profit. But the idea is to try and make your hobby more sustainable and to try and to just basically, a lot of channels will encourage you to go out and buy new stuff because that's what everybody talks about. That's the hype. That's what everybody wants to, what's the latest thing from Games Workshop? What's Mantic got coming out? What board games are new? What's Corvus Belly releasing? That kind of stuff. I want this channel to be a little bit different. I want this to be a community channel. It's not just about the games. It's about helping you in the hobby. It's about motivating you in the hobby. And it's also about making your hobby sustainable. So if we go back a few weeks ago, I did a live stream about buy less and play more. And I've had loads of feedback about that and loads of people who've really kind of maybe rethought the way they do certain things. Anybody who watches the Tabletop Minions channel will see Uncle Adam did a video, I think it was last week, about kind of not getting into debt for the hobby. There are some people and a lot of people who will buy all of their minis on credit cards because it's, you know, the launch window is coming up and it's not been payday yet, and people go and get big expensive Forge World stuff on credit cards or all this kind of stuff, and people end up getting into debt to try and keep up with the hobby. I don't want anybody to be in that situation. That's not a fun place to be. It's a hobby. It's meant to be enjoyable. It's not meant to be a millstone round your neck kind of thing. So yeah, I want to try, and along with this topic and along with many other topics I'll be chatting about over the coming months and years, to try and sort of support and grow this community to help each other and to basically look at things a little bit differently. Yes, I'll be talking about some amazing games and I'll be reviewing stuff and I'll be telling you about the stuff that I love and I enjoy, but it doesn't mean you've got to rush out and buy every single thing. So that's kind of where tonight is about a little bit. We've got Mark Coxey in as well. Hello, Mark. How are you doing? Kieran Burns in. He said he's stripping paint off minis from the 90s. I can imagine it does stink, mate. Al Krabby is saying hello to all. And that's where I'm starting to get up to the start of the chat when everybody's telling me the sound is fine. We've got Scott Longworth in as well. Evening, Scott. Hope you're well, fella. Got Julian Anchors in. Hello to you. Scouting the Webs in as well. Hello, Lee. How are you doing? Skull Munchers in. James is saying, I'll take a bourbon. I'm sure there's a one or two there, mate. I could probably give you quite a nice one. Where are we up to? Let's just jump off the top of my screen there a second. Where are we at? Skull Munchers in. I said that, didn't I? Brandon Rutter says, "Make me rich. How do I make dollar bill?" Andy Rice is in. Everybody's now asking for drinks. We've got Anna in from Red Rose Wargaming. Hi, Anna. Good to see you had a good Warcry event at the weekend as well. Craig Lowther's in. Crafts and Minis says, "Let's do this." Hello, Crafts and Minis. James Hott in. Paul Palms is in as well. Paul sent me a picture in our Patreon Discord group of me looking very much like Del Boy based upon tonight's topic, which I thought was quite funny. Where else? Busey's in as well. Lee Burns is in. Says, "Hi, Andy. Hope you're well." I'm very well. Thank you, buddy. Fiji is in. Robert Zunk's in as well. Forsen is in as well. Says, "Hello. First time I've made it in the live stream, but been watching for ages." Well, and Pete, thank you very much for joining me live tonight. Very kind of you to say so as well. And then Flying Mammal's having a wave. Hi, Flying Mammal. How are you doing? Let's have a look. Has anybody else jumped in towards there as well? We've got Tim Kelly's in as well. Glenn Griffin. Jason Coyer's in as well. There's a good little group in tonight, isn't there? I've got no idea how many people we've got in, but yeah, 61 people or something. That's not bad for 5 minutes in. Not normally this much. So, Mark's saying, hope we break the 100 viewers tonight. I forgot about that, mate. If we do break 100 viewers tonight, I will give away one of my mugs, one of the BlackJack Legacy mugs that you can only win. You can't buy them. So yeah, if we hit 100 viewers, then let's see if we get there tonight. So let's crack on and talk about the subject. So as I mentioned very briefly there, this is not about you turning your hobby into a full-time job. I'm not telling everyone to go out and be kind of to go put 5 years into making YouTube videos. I'm not telling people to go out and be commission painters. This is more about just rethinking the way you do your hobby now. So when we talked about buy less and play more, one of the things that it made me rethink things was all about, am I actually getting my money's worth from the games I've got? How many games have I got sitting on my shelf that I have either never played and probably will never play, or have I bought and maybe played once and maybe didn't enjoy it, but it's still just kind of sitting there, not getting played? So the first thing I would suggest is really take a look at your sort of your hobby stuff. How many boxes of minis have you got lying in cupboards that you will never ever use? There'll be somebody out there is going out today and buying those miniatures at full price somewhere. And if you could sell them on at a slightly kind of discounted rate just to get them off your shelf, somebody will buy them things, whether that's on eBay, whether it's on buying and selling groups on Facebook. But just kind of have a little think about thinning down your games. I've got games on my shelf that are probably worth more now than when I bought them because they're out of print, you can't buy them anymore, they're quite sought after. So why would I not trade them on, give somebody else the benefit of being able to play and really enjoy them games and get their money's worth out of them, where for me, they're just going to sit there and gather dust. So the first one might seem quite obvious. Sell some of the stuff you're never going to use. And I know a lot of people say, well, I get enjoyment from just having them on the shelf. If that's the case, fine. I'm not forcing anybody to do anything. But just kind of take half an hour, look over those shelves of games. How many of those games have you ever played, if it's board games? How many of them miniatures are in boxes and cupboards that you keep thinking, I'll get round to them one day? If that's the case, have a think about selling them on. The other side of it is, if you've got that stuff on your shelves and you've got that stuff in your cupboards and you really, really don't want to sell them, you think, I bought that, I intend to get round to that one day, I will get round and I'll paint it. Ask yourself why you haven't painted it. Ask yourself, why don't I do it now? Instead of buying that new thing that comes out, is on pre-order next weekend, instead of buying that new thing, why don't I spend some time doing the stuff I've got? And I've been doing that this month. So for the first month of this year, we're nearly all the way through January now, I haven't spent a single penny on hobby stuff. I have played games that have been on my shelf for ages that I have never gotten around to. So I've played the Batman Gotham City Chronicles game this month. I have started Pandemic Legacy Season 2 with my wife. We've started playing that. I've been painting up more of my Kings of War stuff with my dwarves, which are dwarf models that I've had lying around forever. I'm still enjoying my hobby. I'm playing more games now because I'm forcing myself to kind of look at those games and weed them out, the ones that I maybe don't play so often. I'm forcing myself to go through the slow grow campaign, painting up minis I already had, and I'm enjoying the hobby just as much, if not more, than I ever did buying stuff. So even from a point of view of it might not be making me any money, it's saving me money because I'm not spending anything on it. So there's another side to it. Something else I wanted to kind of to talk about as well is about actually buying miniatures with the idea of selling them on for a profit. Now, you'll be able to pick up, whether it's from kind of like tabletop sales and things. I know Element Games sometimes has like a car boot sale type thing just for games. You get plenty of those. There's always people who are trying to thin down their collection and save a little bit of money, selling things off. And one thing to watch out for is to buy, and I don't want to kind of shame anybody here, but buying pretty badly or pretty poorly painted or half-finished armies and models. Because people just don't want to take the time to strip them down and clean them up and redo them. So if you're willing to do that and put the work in and strip them off and clean them out and really kind of freshen them up and then resell them, you can make a nice little profit out of that. Now, don't think about it as buying miniatures that you might one day get around to them or something like that. Think about it with the idea of picking them up and moving them on for a small profit. And all you're trying to do is create spare cash, which allows you to spend that on the hobby, on the things that you really do want, and you'll buy the things that you were going to buy anyway, but you're making a little bit of money back from it, so it's saving you in the long run. It's moving you towards that kind of that ideal position of being kind of a negative, not negative, sorry, like a cost neutral hobby, if you like. If you're going to spend £40 on a box of miniatures, wouldn't it be nice if you could have made that £40 from kind of shifting on a few bits and pieces? And this is not about grabbing the latest release before it's out of stock and then moving it on for a profit and kind of shafting everybody. This is about tidying up some older models, things that maybe people just want to kind of shift out. There's maybe not quite enough for a full army, but cleaning them up and kind of stripping them down, prepping them to sell on to somebody else is never a bad thing. So yeah, I'm going to dip back into the chat a little bit now before I move on to my next bit, because there's quite a few bits in the chat here. Everyone's saying, Fiji saying, crossing his fingers that he gets that mug to go with his Bugman's one. Kieran saying, like, get those thumbies up. Yes, please. If anyone wants to give it a thumbs up, much appreciated. Matt Mountain says, hashtag Manic Monday, BlackJackers, how are them Kings of War armies coming along? Yeah, I think there's a few who've kind of spoken about that already as well. I know Steve Evans is doing a bit of painting tonight on his abyssals. Richard Smith has been thinking of selling a load of old minis from when I was a kid. Is it worth slapping some contrast paint on and whacking them on eBay? The thing is, Richard, and it kind of comes back to what I've just been talking about, sometimes painted minis are worth less than unpainted minis, and that's why I'm suggesting getting some that maybe just, I wouldn't suggest stripping good, well-painted minis, but I would potentially suggest kind of sort of stripping some back and selling them as kind of unpainted. The other side of it is that I would say about maybe selling painted minis is when it is a complete set. So if you're selling, say, 10 models that make up a Warcry warband, or if you're selling on 4 or 5 models that make up a Shadespire or a Warhammer Underworlds kind of warband, those kind of things can get sort of a bit better money, if you like, because what you're doing is you're giving somebody a complete kind of play set to just pick up and go with. They do have to be half decent. I'm not saying they've got to be brilliant. They're not like Golden Demon winning stuff, but they do have to be kind of sort of a decent tabletop, I would say. But you can make a little bit of money from that as well. And if you can pick something, so if we go as an example, pre-order weekend for some Games Workshop stuff, there's a shop local to me who does 25% off list price if you pre-order on the pre-order weekend. Now, if I was to pick up an Underworld warband and take that 25% off, and then very quickly paint them up and then pop them onto eBay and sell them on, I could even if it was only 10 or 15 quid, I've sat there, I've done a little bit more hobby, I've enjoyed painting them, it's been like, it was quite a nice kind of fun thing to do, and somebody else is getting the benefit of having it all painted, ready for them to play, and getting it straight to the table, and they're paying for that kind of privilege, and probably paying a lot less than they would do to a commissioned painter. However, that little bit of profit means I can put it back into my hobby, and spend it on something else I want to kind of buy for myself. So there's times for painting minis to sell, and there's times for stripping minis to sell. And I think it depends upon, I would say the cutoff point for me, the way I imagine it is that if you are selling a complete set, so a fully painted army for something that is expandable, sometimes isn't the best, because if they want to expand on that army, they're never going to be able to paint it in the same way again. Where if it's something like a fixed warband or like a Shadespire type thing, that kind of thing I think will maybe make you that little bit more money. Where are we at? Bit of chat there. I'll say I'm thinking of starting to sell my comic collection to buy more gaming stuff. The shame. If it's not getting read in that, mate, if you've already read it or whatever, I'm in a position now where I am saving every spare penny I can get my hands on to get me to the point where I can do this full time quicker. So I've spoken about this many, many times, and I apologize if I sound like a broken record, but I am going to be going full time with this YouTube channel this year. And September is the kind of the cut-off point for me, where financially everything makes sense and everything kind of is sustainable from that point. However, if I can save more money in the short term, then that September date might gradually kind of come closer and closer and closer. So why wouldn't I kind of go through all of my my old games and my stuff I'm not doing? Why wouldn't I go through all of my miniatures that are just lying in boxes? I've got all of the corn side of the original Age of Sigmar starter box, untouched, still on the sprues. I've got the Ogre's side of the Feast of Bones box, still on the sprues, still in the box. I'm probably not, realistically, never going to do anything with them. Why wouldn't I sell them and try and put that money to good use? I've got sort of half-finished kind of war bands and stuff for Underworlds that I've done stuff with in the past. Why wouldn't I kind of strip them down if they're half-finished, or finish them off if they're half-finished? This is what I'm trying to do. So what I'm the kind of the advice and the tips and the tricks and the things I'm giving you tonight are things I've put into practice myself, and the things that I will be doing over the coming months to try and help me get what I really want. And what I really want is to be able to do this full time. So that's what it is. I'm not kind of some miracle worker. I haven't got this kind of hidden secret. The reason that these things seem obvious, and you think, yeah, that's obvious. Nobody does them. I bet very few people, if anybody in the chat tonight, strips minis, gets minis, strips them, cleans them up, and puts them on eBay and sells them. And you know why they don't do it? Because it's a bit too much like hard work. But you know what's hard work? Actually working to be able to fund these miniatures that then go and sit on the shelf. So that's where I'm trying to come from. So yeah, think of it that way. I've got some more stuff to talk about as well. So we'll keep cracking on. Where we are. Paul Palm says, can we discuss how to sell kidneys, etc. for hobby stuff? We can, mate. You just have to sell one. If you sell two, you're pretty much goosed, mate. But you can get away with selling one. Flying Mammal says, this goes for any aspect of life. I wonder what that was in relation to. Was that about selling stuff? I think it might have been. Yeah, and it's not, to be fair there, Ruth, it's not just limited to your games and stuff. I've got so many kind of old PlayStation games that I will never ever play now. Why wouldn't I go and trade them in, or why wouldn't I go and kind of put them in against another game that I want to buy or something like that? Aggression's in as well, says, evening all, painting and possibly selling all year. Kenwood says, did I miss Mugwatch? Not yet, mate. I've mentioned if we hit 100 tonight, I will find a way to do a live draw for it. And what it'll be as well is it'll probably be, actually, I don't know if I'll be able to do it straight away tonight, but it will only be for the people that are in the chat tonight, because I'll make sure that's the way it happens. So if you're in the chat tonight and we hit 100, then you will be the folks that get the chance to win a mug. A bit of chat. Peter saying I could bear to part with Dread Ball edition set 2, which never got opened. I've got it sitting here behind me, mate, because me and my wife were going to have a game of it the other night. VJ says, should I burst out that Hero Quest, Andy? Do you know what? Hero Quest is probably the one thing that I wouldn't sell myself, actually. And it's kind of like nostalgic, really. I've had that since I was a kid. And that's one of them things I think if I did sell it, I would always regret it. So that one's mine. That one's not going to go anywhere. And at some point, I will start painting up those miniatures for Hero Quest. Because, again, that's my hobby again. That's feeding my hobby with things I've already got. Rob Beeson says, good evening. Hello, buddy. Paul, just jump off the top of my screen there as well. Where are we at? Peter says, other half for me, especially now that I started on the scotch. Redwell's in as well. Hello, buddy. Horrid person. Gene says, hey, I had my head buried in a painting project. Sorry, I'm late. There's nothing wrong with that, mate. Kieran saying, bargain hunting, upcycle. Yeah, I mean, even just looking like, you know, you often see shops kind of trying to sell things off, you know, half price on minis and things. Sometimes it's worth taking a little bit of a punt on them. I mean, it's a bit of a risk, but there's always the chance, isn't there? Luke's in as well from Luke's APS and Geek Gaming. Hello, mate. How you doing? Long time no speak, mate. I think the last time we actually spoke face to face was at the last weekender. Obviously, we have a chat now and again as well, but it'd be good to catch up with sometime, mate. He says, how do I meant? Buzzer's in as well. Nice to see you, Buzzer. Let's have a look. I don't know if I've got... Well, let's have a look. Peter says 78 and rising. It was showing up on my screen, but it looks like it's disappeared now. It says I've got no viewers now. That can't be right. It's back to 82. James saying here to Luke. Chris Idden's in as well. Hello, fella. How you doing? Paul McElroy's in as well. Beyond Hope says, hi all. Saw the title of the stream and thought I had a business talk from the GW CEO. Hey, maybe one day, mate. Who knows? I meant me being being CEO, not getting him on a channel. Lee Burns says, great topic. Currently painting some Elvian Reavers from Warhammer Fantasy Battle, being sat on the shelf for literally years. To be honest, mate, they're going to be coming back into AOS soon, aren't they, with the elves? So there's another thing. I've got the elves and stuff from that Fantasy Battle starter set that I ended up getting from somewhere, and that's probably a perfect time now. Clean those things up and get them sold on. Christian very kindly sharing the Patreon link there as well, saying help Andy achieve his dream for as little as $2 a month. Yes, Thank you very much. We've had a good month with Patreon. We are. I took a little bit of a hit at the start of the month when a few of my kind of the people that kind of pay more. I had somebody that basically supported me at $30 a month decided to leave the Patreon this month, which is absolutely fine. I appreciate every dollar that gentleman spent with me. But I've had a few new people start. I've had some people up their pledges as well. So I'm back ahead of where I was at the end of last month, which is good. It's growth. It's exactly what I need to do. I've from a Patreon point of view, I'm going to be playing around with the pledge levels a little bit. I've taken out that $30 pledge level. I don't think it's fair to have that there anymore. I'm going to be basically $2 gets you access to the Patreon Discord chat. At $5, you will get access to a monthly podcast, which will only be available to Patreon members. And it will also see you get access to a monthly draw as well. So there'll be a monthly draw where I'll be giving something away every month. From $10 and above, you will get access to all of that stuff. And you will also get some exclusive dice after a certain period of being a Patreon member. And at $20, you get all of that stuff. And you also get an exclusive T-shirt after 6 months. So I'll be writing all this stuff at the minute. All I'm waiting for is for the company that's going to make the dice for me just to get back me and confirm that that's all in place. And once that's in place, we'll be redoing those pledge levels. For anybody that's already pledged, I'll make sure you get everything that you've already pledged for. But the new people coming in will get access to that as well. So yeah, I'm trying to basically give something back to you as well. I appreciate most of you do it just to kind of help me out and just to support, and you kind of like what I do, and I really do appreciate that. But I want to try and give you something back for your support as well, and to help keep you there. To be fair, that's the other side of it. King John says, "Hey Andy and everyone, what do you think of picking up WizKid minis to paint and sell?" I'm not that familiar when it comes to kind of like the D&D stuff and what the crowd's like for that. I think you've got an opportunity where people who play D&D might not necessarily be painters, so you might be able to do something like that. It's like board games. I'm not sure what the market's like for a second-hand board game where the minis are all painted. I don't know whether there's a market for that or not. Baz is saying he's selling some warbands for Shadespire. If people are interested, hit Baz up for those ones. Richard Smith says a lot of them are super old. I wonder if that's the WizKid ones you're talking about, mate. I'm not sure. Let's have a look and see where we are. Where we are. Andrew Fairbanks says, advice from someone who buys a lot: avoid priming your models before selling. I don't trust that you used a quality primer and I won't buy it. Interesting, mate. Very interesting. Because primer is also something that can be quite difficult to actually strip off as well. So yeah, it's quite interesting. I've never really thought about people using a good quality primer, to be fair. It either kind of works or it doesn't really. So yeah. Where we at? VG says, tell us what you want, what you really, really want. Paul says, when I was a teenager, I always used to sell my old video game stuff for quick cash. Wish I hadn't really, but no regrets. I buy a lot of my kind of video games specifically on disc so I can trade them on because I can't do that if I buy the digital version of them. So I don't really tend to have that kind of attachment to stuff like that, I think. Blizzards is in as well. Good evening, Blizzards. Peter saying in the past he stripped, cleaned and listed minis on eBay, but they're sold for minimal bid, so don't bother anymore. I think it's just a case of you've got to kind of pick and choose, haven't you? You've got to sell stuff that people want to buy, and you need to be buying them cheap enough that it's worth your kind of time and effort, and making sure you're covering your shipping fees and your eBay fees and things like that. Steve said he's been buying and selling stuff for the last 15 years. The fun hobby. I remember you saying, Steve, when we first kind of mentioned this chat as well, and I mean, I guess you've been doing it 15 years. You've proved it's possible. What I'm saying actually does work, and it's not just kind of like, I've done it as well. But if you've been doing it for that amount of time, then it's kind of proofs in the pudding as well. VJ saying 85 watches. It went down and it's back up again, mate. We're at 84 according to me. Lee saying, as soon as I knew I was getting back into AOS, I sold my Aeronautica. That plane departed with the knowledge I wouldn't fit it in with AOS. Yeah, and at the end of the day, mate, you may have made a small loss on it. You may have broke even. You might have even made money on it. But the game's always there to buy again if you want to in the future. That's the other side of it, isn't it? Uh, Mini Adventures say I thought about using my 3D printers for terrain and selling them to support my hobby. I think you probably can, mate. You've just got to be careful that the things that you're selling are not, they're not kind of copyrighted type stuff, you know. Sometimes people will give you the files to enable you to print for home use. As soon as you start selling them, you get into some kind of shaky ground with some other bits and pieces. So if anybody is going to do that, just check it out. And I think I've just kind of read there, Luke saying too long. I think it depends. If it's something you can just kind of leave them running in the background and you're not worried about it, to make any kind of serious money like a business, you'd probably need about 5 or 6 of them things kind of running constantly. But if you're just doing the odd little bit here and there, maybe doing some bits for friends, it's probably not a bad thing. VJ saying, yeah, I meant play Hero Quest. Sorry, mate. Yes, I will definitely be playing it at some point in that case then. Spending your time playing instead of buying. Yes, Hero Quest might see the table again, definitely. Mark Corley's in. He said, I sold off my video game collection to get started in this hobby. Big decision at the time, but was the best decision I've made. Yeah, I wouldn't say I've ever really sold anything that I've kind of regretted when I've looked back on it. I'm pretty good at kind of weighing those things up. I've definitely regretted buying stuff. I don't think I've ever regretted selling stuff on. We got Seja as in. It says, I have a well-paying job. Why would I want to turn my hobby into another job? Because if you've got a well-paying job, mate, you're not worried about this. It's not a problem for you. It's like you know, it's exactly what I'm saying. Basically, if your free time is worth more to you than the money you spend on your hobby, then you've got the balance right. But not everybody has a good paying job. Not everybody has lots of spare cash. So nobody's asking you to kind of turn your hobby into a full-time job. What I'm suggesting is, if you've got loads of stuff on your shelves that's gathering dust and you'll never get played, why would you not sell it to fund more things in the hobby? If you're sitting on piles of cash like Scrooge McDuck, mate, don't worry about this. Richard Smith says, the missus just remind me how much her horses cost. To be honest, my minis are the least of our financial worries. And this is always the same, isn't it? This is like the things I talk about won't apply to everybody. Some people will have more than enough money to not worry about this kind of stuff. And those maybe aren't the people that I'm kind of aiming it at. Although I still think having a sustainable hobby in the fight of you're not just buying stuff to put on the shelf and never play is relevant no matter how much money you've got. In fact, the more money you've got, you probably have more crap sitting on yourself that you just won't play. So there's that side of it's relevant to you. But I'm just trying to kind of like, I'm trying to suggest that making a sustainable hobby for everybody and getting it almost to a cost neutral point of view is achievable and can be done. Whether you choose to do it, entirely up to you. VJ says, I'm still slapping down contrast base coats on Warcry terrain. Coming along well though. I think I found what I really like contrast for: speed painting terrain. I've never used contrast paints for terrain because I find it too expensive, because you use quite a lot of it. It's one of the reasons I don't do washes now on terrain as well. I tend to just do a lot more zenithal kind of priming and dry brushing. So yeah, that's why, I guess. Let's have a look. We've got Dustin in. It says, "G'day Andy, I'm in and lurking. Nice to see you, mate. I hope you're keeping well. I haven't heard from you in a little while, but really good to see you, fella." Luke said, "I'm sat here with a whiskey watching to learn something." Yeah, you should be on here with me, mate, making everybody else learn how to make your own washes and stuff like that. That's how you save some money. It doesn't make you money, but it saves you money, and that's what this is about as well. Where we at? Just shot off the top of my screen again, as it always does as soon as everybody starts chatting. Where we at? Doug's in as well. Nice to see you. 2+ tough. Says, I'm here to learn how to be a millionaire. Pencil and paper ready. You. To be honest, mate, you just keep doing what you're doing. You'll do all right out of YouTube one day. Like the way things is going, you'll be the internet millionaire. So for those that have just come in a little bit later, a quick recap. What I'm trying to suggest is that there are ways you can make your hobby cost neutral. There are things you can do that will enable you to make a little bit of money on the side, to enable you to buy the stuff that you really want now. and it's about digging through those boxes of minis that you will know you'll never use and getting them onto eBay and selling them off or trading them with friends for stuff that you want. It's about playing the games that you already own, because instead of chasing that shiny new thing that's up on the GW pre-order this week, what about all them games that you've already got? If you're not going to play them, sell them on. If you are going to play them, get them out and play them, and don't worry about the new stuff is. If you've not played that game, or you've not played that game in 2 years, it's new to you. And if you've played it and you didn't enjoy it, why are you holding on to it? So the other thing I wanted to do tonight as well is I wanted to give you all a challenge. And if you've got bags of cash, if you've got a nice well-paid job and this doesn't interest you, you might not want to take part in this. But I want to issue a challenge, and I'm going to firm this up a little bit, and I maybe make a video about it, or I might put a post on the Facebook group. But what I want you to do is I want you to start with £10 or $10, whatever your local currency, €10. And I want you to turn that €10 or $10 or £10 into as much money as you can. And how I want you to do that is I want you to do it by upcycling, recycling, upcycling, buying something, cleaning it up, selling it on, buying a second-hand warband from somebody, cleaning it up, painting it, selling it on, doing something like that. It might be that you decide to buy a board game that's going cheap, and then you might know it's worth more than you're paying for it. I would love to see how many people take up the challenge and see if they can turn that initial 10, whatever that currency is, and see where we can get to it. Can you get it to a start collecting box? Can you get it to buy the latest board game that you want? Can you get it to buy the army that you want? I would love to hear people's stories about how they can take that starting point. And there's no end point to this. The only end point is when you get to where you want it to be. It's like that whole, like, there's a book which is about a story of a guy who basically takes a paperclip and turns it into a house by constantly swapping it and trading it for something else. And it basically giving what you've got is valuable to somebody else and turn it into something that's valuable to you, and quite kind of like flipping things over and stuff. So that's what the challenge is to you. I'll kind of put some framework around it just to kind of know, like, so I can explain a little bit better what I want you to do. But yeah, what do you think of that? Who's up for the challenge? I'm going to be doing it. I'm going to be trying to do it, and I'll kind of maybe even document my story about how it goes and where I end up and stuff over time. But I just thought it's a bit of fun. I mean, I guess we can all afford £10 or $10 or €10 or whatever it is. It's a good enough starting place. You can even start with nothing. Start with something you have in your cupboard. That will be even better, because then this is free. It hasn't even cost you the $10 to start. So yeah, let's see what people are up to. Where are we at? Sergio says, maybe shift focus, how to enjoy and keep the hobby a hobby and not a chore. That's exactly what I was talking about, mate. This wasn't about turning I mentioned this at the start, you may have missed this. It wasn't about turning your hobby into a full-time job or even into a part-time job. It was about using the hobby that you do, selling off the games that you don't use, buying the things that you want to buy, and not just buying things for the sake of it and getting caught up in the kind of the new shiny thing. Trading things with friends that are what you've got's worth more to them, and they might either give you money for it or they might trade you for something that you really want. Spend time playing the games that you've already got. Spend time painting the miniatures you've already got. That's the whole ethos around this, about making your hobby sustainable. That's not a very catchy title though, is it? If I say make your hobby sustainable, making money, which is you can do everything I'm saying, you can do that and make money out of this. It'll just take more time and it'll take more effort. And the reason people don't make money out of it is because they don't want to put the time into it. They don't want to put the work into it. But it's possible. That's what I'm trying to get at. Where are we at? Blizzard says, ooh, what brand of dice? I've asked a couple of companies, mate, to if they can do what I want, but they're going to be custom dice. Basically, they'll be black dice, and they'll have the red BlackJack Legacy logo on the 6 side. So yeah, so they're going to be kind of exclusive to the Patreon group. I'm not going to be selling them in the Facebook groups or anything like that. They're just going to be as part of a pledge level within Patreon. Yoakum's in as well. Says, hi everyone, first time looking at the channel live. Hopefully it helps you get to 100 viewers. We've kind of been bouncing around somewhere between about 80 and 90 so far tonight, I think, as far as I can see. So yes, let's hope we get there, eh? Richard says, I just sprayed and dry brushed mine. Yeah, me as well, mate. If anybody's seen my videos on painting the Warcry terrain, you'll know exactly what I mean. And Jim saying it's not so much the quality of the primer as the ability of the person spraying. that is a very different thing. Yep, just sitting there with the spray can, just blasting away at it and blocking out all of the kind of all the details. That is a different thing. Gene saying primer can cut the asking price too. Not for selling, you're right on that, but buying, you can scoop primed molars for less. It's the half-ass principle. Half done involves more work. Yeah, it's funny, isn't it, that? Peter says 2 thin coats of cheap primer is better than 1 thick coat of expensive primer. Yeah, I think that's what he was getting at, to be fair. I think I misread it wrong. Richard Smith says Lizard Men might sell with the new Seraphon Battletome dropping. We'll have to check the site and see what units is still valid. That's the other thing as well, when you see stuff coming. So we've been talking about elves and stuff as well. Like, elves are coming like at the minute as well. It's you're going to see some of the old elf stuff kind of getting regurgitated as well. Luke saying, I used to buy models at trade minimum orders with a lot of historic companies, 150 to 250, and I used to buy and paint them up in squads of 5 or 10. So 35 to 45% of RRP and sell for full retail. That's the thing. If you can get them cheap enough, like I mentioned before about getting 25% off even, if you can buy discounted and sell for retail, you're still making money. You have to balance it with the time and effort that you've put in. But if you're not worried about the time and effort, because actually that's part of your hobby, just painting those models, then everyone's a winner. Lee saying he least broke even with his Aeronautica because he had a miscast plane. I remember you saying you got that, mate, now, yeah? And he got it out to replace it, so you were lucky. Glenn says he doesn't use eBay, but there are local trade pages on Facebook that I've had success with. I think it's sometimes it's just about trust. There's local to me is things like kind of Gumtree and stuff like that. It's just, I guess, with eBay and with selling pages on Facebook and stuff, there's just that little bit like level of kind of trust, I suppose, I think. But you know your own sort of local things. Blizzards is saying, take a break from painting these baby seal clubbers. He's Northern Alliance for the slow grow to tune in. Nice to see you, Blizz, mate. VG saying, airbrush prime contrast dry brush is my new fast terrain method. Yeah, it does work well, mate. It's like I say, I think it's just, for me, it's just the cost of contrast paint. And it doesn't really go that far because you do have to slap it on to get the best out of it. Let's have a look. Shaggy saying, hello, Andy. Hello, all. Hello, buddy. Fatman Gaming's in. Hello, Craig. How you doing, mate? He says, when you're looking at dice, I could recommend getting ones with rounded corners as they tend to roll better. Yeah, I think most do, mate, to be fair. Now, the square corners are the casino dice type things, aren't they? We got Juan in as well. Says, glad I can sit in. Nice one, mate. Nice to see you. Steve is saying, buy in bulk. Keep what you want. Sell off what you don't want. Make a bit and repeat. There is that as well, like, mate, isn't there? There is a case of like sort of splitting things out. I think it's like when people buy these like the GW box sets where you get like the one I bought, the Feast of Bones, and people then split them off and sell them on, don't they, as well? So, or buy for the half you want and sell on the second half, that kind of stuff. Scouting the web just said something there before I jumped off the top of my screen. Where's it gone? I don't even know where that's gone now. I think he says sometimes it's at a loss, but then it reduces the cost of the new project. Yeah, even selling things at a loss is still better than having something sitting on your shelf gathering dust, never being used, because it's dead money then, isn't it? It's not going anywhere at that point. King John said he sold his magic cards and bought paints. Yeah, I sold some of my more expensive Star Wars Legion cards. Not Legion, sorry. Star Wars Destiny cards. So I probably ended up like net with what I'd spent on those. I still have loads of stuff lying around, but I sold the more expensive cards. Some of them cards went for like £40 each. Philip Tolhurston as well. He said, I went through a period of fine job lots on Facebook, selling pages, breaking it into smaller lots and selling it on Facebook, kept what I wanted and still made a profit. These are the kind of things, I mean, and thank you for sharing that story as well, just to kind of illustrate my point. What I'm trying to say, I'm not suggesting people turn this into a part-time job or turn it into a full-time job. But if you can do stuff that enables you to kind of be almost cost neutral or to make a little bit of money on the side, that's what I'm talking about. I'm trying to say that getting caught up in the latest hype and rushing out and buying a full army for a game you've never played before might not always be the wisest choice unless you are 100% committed to what you're doing. VJ's chatting to Luke there. One says, "Sitting live, why do I keep pressing send? I love the message in your recent videos." Yeah, thank you very much, Juan. I'm trying to, I mentioned this at the start, so I apologize for people that were in there, but anybody that's tuned in a little bit later, there are lots and lots of channels that basically tell you all the latest hype, tell you all the latest news, tell you where you should spend your money and what's coming down the path and all. And I'm trying to bring something different to it. I'm trying to be more community focused. I'm trying to be more about the wider hobby and making things sustainable and making things more affordable and getting new gamers into the hobby. There's lots of other channels doing the main stuff, doing the big 40k stuff and the AOS stuff and things. I'm just trying to find my own little kind of niche in that. I've got an awesome community that support me on this channel, and I get more enjoyment from interacting with you lot on things like this and talking about those kind of subjects. And I'm sure you enjoy it because you don't get that information elsewhere. So yeah, it's cool. I'm glad other people enjoy it too. Sergio says, yeah, stuff in the wardrobe's just cash in disguise. Sell it and you've gotten paid to clean, but better still, 3 times before buying. It's a really good point, isn't it? It's like that kind of the carpenter's thing about measure twice and cut once. I have definitely re-evaluated what I spend my money on. And as I mentioned at the start, I haven't spent a penny on hobby this month, and yet I've played more games and I've painted more minis in January than I probably did any month last year. So yeah, it definitely can work. It definitely can work. Peter says he sold a cow and bought some magic beans. Hey, but if you get the treasure at the top of that beanstalk, mate, then your quid's in. Sam Goose is in as well. Hello, Sam. Said, I sold my Death Guard and Space Marines. I don't care about the money, but the time I put in matters. I want to start again, and this takes a long time on each miniature. However, you sold them, so you're saying the money doesn't matter. But if the money didn't matter, you wouldn't have sold them, would you? You would have just put them in a drawer and just thrown them to one side and never used them again. So even by saying the money doesn't matter, you've proved that actually you're far better off selling them and putting the money into the next project. And that's exactly what I'm trying to say. I'm not talking about anybody becoming a full-time eBay seller. I'm talking about utilizing the stuff that you will not use again, putting it to good use by selling it on, trading it, whatever it is, and putting it back into your hobby, making your hobby sustainable, making it almost cost neutral, and doing what you can. Doug saying, I funded my hobby and channel by selling unused models and then painting for other folks. I do some very simple painting for folks and for payment. They get me a camera stand. That's exactly it, mate. I mean, you've kind of proved again. If you want something enough, if you want that latest army, if you want a new camera to start a YouTube channel, all that kind of stuff, you will have ways and means of just making that little bit extra money and making it from your hobby. And it might be painting minis to sell them on. It might be a little bit of commission painting for a short period of time. If your painting is at a good enough level that people are willing to pay for it, and you enjoy painting enough that you are willing to do those small commissions, you'll very quickly get there. You might not want to do it forever. It might not become your full-time job. But if it's a means to an end, you'd be surprised how kind of motivated you can get. Root's asking if you planted them beans. Richard said he struck some Black Templar on the bell tower and realised he still needed a dry brush, so did the rest with rattle cans. Yeah, I've kind of, like I said before, the Warcry stuff with the beans so big, I did all that with rattle cans. I've done a little bit of the kind of the scenic stuff on my Kings of War bases. I've used a little bit of contrast paints for that, but just because it was so small, it was just as quick to kind of do it that way. Malkavian's in. Hello, mate. Saying, show me the money. Excuse me. Bridges saying he's decided to try the contrast on the terrain after he saw the GW article on painting Warcry terrain. Yeah, I mean, the GW stuff, it works really well on terrain. Like I said before, I think it's too expensive to be kind of throwing it all over that much. Shaggy saying, I sold a load of stuff over the summer, got rid of stuff I'm not playing or not going to use. I'm just starting to go through my stuff again now, mate, so I'm Sean caught me on a really good day yesterday where he was looking for a particular board game that he couldn't find in stock anywhere. Just so happened I had it on my shelf and it was one of the ones I was going to sell on anyway. So he got the game he wanted. I made a little bit of money on it, and I'm going to be listing stuff on eBay and bits and pieces. I'm thinking of putting a buy and sell group into the Patreon Discord chat as well. I don't really want things. Sorry, I'll rephrase that. I don't want things buying and selling in my Facebook group. It ends up becoming messy, and any kind of disputes and stuff, I get stuck in the middle of it because it all happened in my group. With the Patreon thing, it's a lot smaller group. It tends to be people that I know who they are because they're my Patreons, and I think they can deal with it between themselves. So I am thinking about putting in that kind of buying and selling thing in there as well. So anybody that's in the Discord group, let me know what you think of that as well. Where are we at? Richard says, you're totally right. It does apply to everyone. Let someone get some use out of the crap we don't use. Yeah, that's exactly where eBay kind of came into its own, wasn't it? Philip said he sold his Infinity this week. There's nobody around here to play with it. Yeah, and it might be that really kind of does kind of feel really bad, and that there isn't anybody around to play with it. You might not want to sell it, but if you deep down know you're not going to play that game again because of that reason, the money's better in your pocket, buddy, isn't it? VJ is saying 91 on my screen. It's jumping around all over the place. I don't know how accurate mine is. It's jumping up and it's jumping down, so somebody needs to keep a track on it. VJ is shouting, come on, 100. Dustin said he's been doing okay, painting bits and pieces. He's getting well into D&D. And he said he thought I'd join because I'm sitting on a Scrooge McDuck size of minis. Yes, mate, you know exactly what it's about then. Peter says he feels a mug coming his way. Jiplin, good evening, mate. How are you doing? Jiplin says he's £160 sold so far this year, equivalent to his Zombicide 2.0 pledge for 20 quid. That's what I mean. If there's games you want, even if you think about it from a pledge, by the time you pledge something on Kickstarter, by the time the pledge manager opens and you've got to pay for everything, you could have sold a load of stuff to fund it for free. That's the other way to look at them as well, isn't it? Scout on the web says, £10 you say. Is it cheating to buy 3 copies of the Mortal Realms magazine and sell it on? Not at all, mate. If you can buy something and sell it on, then by all means do it. By all means do it. Tim's parceling up his eBay sales from the weekend. His old metal Middle-earth minis. Some were painted on, went for way more than I expected. That's the other side of it as well, is if you do it on eBay, put a minimum starting bid on us that you will accept, and then at least you know you're getting your money from it. If it doesn't sell, it hasn't cost you anything, and you've still got the minis, so don't worry about it. So don't let things go under price if you're not happy with that. That's where things like eBay and stuff can kind of really can help you really. Peter says, any chance of lending me $10? Where we at? Richard said this week's issue you'll only get one. Tim said the rest of the stuff on Sprues went well as well. £191 so far. How cool is that, mate? 191 quid that you've made out of selling stuff that you know you won't use. Brilliant. Kieran says, I can say that the feeling of making a decent sale and getting a few quid in your pocket for unused stuff is as good as the hit from pressing that button on by buying something else. I completely agree, mate. I know exactly what you mean. Roxanne says, if you'd sold off the previously unused dwarfs, would you have ended up getting into Kings of War, Andy? Yes, mate, I still would have ended up getting into Kings of War. I didn't paint the dwarfs up because I already had them, although that was a big deciding factor. I painted them up because I tried a few different ones. So I had some ogre minis where I only had a couple that I wanted to paint up and see if I fancied those ones. I had some abyssal stuff that I tried. I had some undead stuff that I tried. And I was just trying to find the minis that I enjoyed painting first and foremost. And it just so happened that the dwarfs were the ones that I really enjoyed. Hence why I probably bought them all that time ago originally as well. So I actually really fancied doing a Night Stalkers or a Northern Alliance army because I love both of those models. The reason I didn't was because that new box set has got everybody in the dog playing those armies at the minute. And so I decided, because of my local group, There was quite a few new players as well who'd picked up those sets. I wanted to do something different to what other people were doing. So yeah, I definitely still would have got into Kings of War, and I'm absolutely loving putting my army together. And I'm really glad I did get into it at this 3rd edition. I think I definitely got in at the right time. It just feels like I got in at the ground floor rather than kind of an uphill. Like trying to get into 40k these days, I feel it is quite difficult to jump in from scratch. Where getting into Kings of War at 3rd edition feels like a new kind of stepping on point, and I'm really enjoying that. So yeah, definitely still would have gone into it, mate. Where are we at? Where are we at? Sedja says, I pretty much missed the beginning and turned in when the money talk happened. Sorry, buddy. But welcome anyway, welcome along. Crafts and Mini said, I sell painted minis and terrain at a local convention once a year. I get rid of games I won't use in the auction there too. It's a fun way to meet other hobbyists and always allows me to reinvest. Yes, you're absolutely right, mate. Going to a convention. So, for example, there's a big board game convention at Aircon, which is around March time, I think it is, in Harrogate, in North Yorkshire. And they have a huge, big board game kind of bring and buy sale thing. So you could bring all the board games, all the stuff you don't want to play anymore, pop them into there. Somebody else is selling them for you in the background while you're spending the day playing games with friends. And then at the end of the day, you can go over, see what's sold, and get some cash for it. You've had a day out. You've probably had a free day out. You've probably made a little bit of money on the back of it. And then that's you've kind of completely ended up with a much better position, haven't you? Doug saying, accurate title, make your hobby free. Yeah, it's kind of, it's both ways, isn't it? It could be make your hobby free, but by the same stretch, if you're willing to put the work in, you can still make money from doing this as well. Where are we at? VJ says, you'd be surprised the word sustainable actually rates really well in YouTube searches. I'm not sure if it does for hobby. It probably does for like videos of Greta Thunberg or something like that. I'm not sure if it works for hobby stuff. But I guess we find out, won't we, one day? I can always change the title of the video to see what happens. But making money in a thumbnail looks much more attractive, I bet you. I'll be able to tell you if it works, because I'll be able to see if I'll be able to see from what my click-through rate is. Where are we up to? Gina's saying there, oh, where is it? That's massively just flew past the little chat there. I'm trying to see where I can dive back in again. Mark is saying, on dice you should make the one a mold line. I don't think it's that. I don't think that's a possibility, mate. Jack saying, selling stuff help towards funding each hobby room. Well worth having a clear out and having a clear hobby room in mind. Definitely, mate. My point is, I mean, that is kind of part of saying you could say that your hobby became like free there, if you like, but you were still making money to reinvest somewhere else, and that's the point. Paul says he's selling PVA for just double what I buy it for. Hit me up in the DMs. I bet you're thinning it down with water as well, mate, and you're making twice as much. Richard said he's got a load of 4th edition high elves, but they're going nowhere. Doug saying, sincere advice, sell your GW armies right when their book is announced. That way, there are people excited, but no one has seen the final product to be disappointed about anything. Buy low and sell high. I couldn't agree more, mate. At that point, when that first book's coming out, before it gets that first nerf and that first FAQ, that's the time to get rid of stuff. Definitely. So if anybody's got any Caradron Overlord stuff they want to sell on, get ready. That'll be coming along. If you've got any Seraphon stuff that you've had lying around for a while, get that ready to go. It's all coming soon. Gina saying, best you can hope for is selling still on the sprue or selling well painted. Everything in between has a big drop off on your take. It will have a big drop off, mate, but it's better having a drop off and cash in your pocket than it's sitting in a box and never ever getting used, for sure. Where are we at? Skullmuncher said, anybody picking up the Warhammer Underworlds online game tomorrow? I didn't realise it was out tomorrow, mate. I'd be tempted, actually. I did put my name down for the kind of the pre-release beta thing, but I obviously never got a code for it. But yeah, I'd be interested if it's the right price. Paul saying, wait for a Steam saying. Paul saying would rather play the real game. I would probably rather play the real game as well, mate, but it's a nice thing to be able to kind of play with some mates online and stuff as well, isn't it? And Skullmunch is saying, would be cool to play with some blackjackers though. It would be, mate, actually. It would be. Bruce Patton is in as well. He says, just got in here. I'm sure I missed a lot. Hope everyone is doing well. Thank you for coming in, Bruce. Nice to see you in, mate. Kieran is saying it's a little strange, going to be a full release. I can't remember, mate, if it's a full release or if it's still part of the beta or the beta testing. 12 Neve said, I sold mine because I'm drowning in plastic. I know that feeling, mate. Chris is saying I have over 60 long boxes of comic books. Dead money that's not going anywhere. It's not dead money if it's worth something to you. That's what I'm trying to get at. I am not suggesting anybody sells something that has sentimental value or sells something that means something to them, or they just like to go back and look at, or they just like the idea of having it on their shelf. However, if, like me, you've got stuff that you look at and you just go, I ain't playing that. Or you're raking through boxes and you're finding sprues from models that you'll never ever use. That's the stuff I mean is dead money. It's not dead money if it means something to you. Even if it is just because it sits on the shelf and you like having it there. It's not dead money. You get an enjoyment from it. That's the real kind of clear delineation. If you've got stuff that you throw in a box and you never look at and you have absolutely no intention of ever looking at it again, that's when it's worth shifting on. Where are we at? Richard Davis just finished 5 Chaos Space Marines, possessed for $20, and they were built out of the box. $15 less than retail in Canada. Where are we at? Deep Red saying he's got Warhammer Dark Elf army and an Orc army you could get rid of. Mark Zielinski's in. Nice to see you, Mark. Looking forward to catching up with you at Adepticon, my friend. VJ saying that said, after my Warcry terrain is done with no holes in the cabinet, we're really looking forward to painting some actual minis again. I like to mix it up, switching between painting minis and kind of painting a little bit of terrain as well. I really enjoyed painting all that Warcry terrain, but by the same stretch, I've now held off and I haven't pre-ordered anything from this next wave of Warcry stuff at the minute because I love the game. I'm still enjoying playing it. I just don't feel the need to buy the latest stuff at the minute while I'm still getting enjoyment from the stuff I already have. Mark saying he needs to unload some of his accumulated hobby. I think we all have accumulated hobby, mate, don't we? Paul saying I got some Rolf Lawrence and some Ray Buns as well. Vaughan Wood's in as well. Nice to see you, Vaughan Wood. Malkavian said he had a good clear up recently and sold off those loose. Where was it? Sold off those odd freebies you pick up at tournaments that we'll never use. That's another good point. How many bits of freebie bags and goodie bags and stuff have you had over the time? Chris is saying there's a bunch of people who have dead money in models sitting in glass cabinets just to have them on display. And Chris is saying eBay charges a lot. I wouldn't say they charge a lot. They charge a portion of the fee, but there's plenty of kind of free listing weekends and stuff in there, that kind of stuff. Sam's saying AOS and 40k are graveyards for projects. I always lose interest before I finish. Want to have a look at Star Saga and other off-the-wall talisman-style games. Yeah, I think if you're, especially when you're talking about big armies, 40k, Age of Sigmar, they're big games and they move fast as well. So there's always something new coming out for them. And I think a lot of people do start an army and then see the new shiny thing and get distracted and go off down that road. And then see the new shiny thing and get distracted and go off down that road as well. I do just want to say thank you very much to Mark Clough, who's just joined the Patreon tonight. Thank you very much. Just flashed it on my phone there. So really do appreciate you joining the Patreon. I'm not sure if it came up on the screen at all, but I want to make sure I say thank you. Oh, I think it's just tucked in the corner there. I think I can see there. Thank you, Mark. Where we at? I'll dive back in here. Oh yeah, found myself. Will Calwell as well. Nice to see you, buddy. He says, recommend selling unused sprues. It's always possible to buy more. However, a few years ago, I sold some GW books and regretted it. Yeah, you really have to think about whether you want to get rid of something or not. Vaughan Wood says, I tend to stay away from Kickstarter. It's so tempting with the shed ton of minis. Joan of Arc, for example. I've got the full Joan of Arc pledge, and I think I would quite happily sell it on now if I knew anybody that wanted to buy a full Joan of Arc pledge, because it takes up a whole load of space in my room, and I am never going to get the time and effort to play all of those. There's so many games out there that it's just it's unbelievable how much stuff is in that. So I think the problem is, how on earth do you shift something like that? I need a pallet to deliver it to somebody. Chris is saying I bought GW kits at such a good deal. It costs me too much money to sell now than replace later when I get to that project. Yeah, and if you're going to get to that project, then fine. But really, what my point is I really think down, are you really going to get to that project? Because if you are, great, hang on to it, absolutely fine. If you're not, it is dead money then. It is dead money. Joel is saying Aircon's 13th and 15th of March. Cheers, buddy. I knew it was March. I just couldn't exactly remember what date it was. But yes, I went last year for the first time and really, really enjoyed it. The only reason I think I might go for a day this time, but it's right in the middle of a million things. It's like my wife's 40th birthday. It's our wedding anniversary. I'm at Adepticon. There's a lot happening in March this year. Tony's saying, happily make scenic bases to sell on, but my other half would need to sell for me, and I doubt it'd have much demand. You could always try. You could always try, mate. I mean, I've got no idea how much scenic bases would go for, and I guess it depends upon how much kind of time and effort you'd put into it as well. David Moffatson as well. It says, just pop in to say hello. Can't stay, but we'll catch the rerun. Thanks, David. Appreciate you popping in, buddy. I don't know if you're still here. You might, by the time I get to this bit of the chat, you might have already gone. Gene saying, unless you expect too much for it, overvalue your junk and you get to keep it. It's the difference between vintage out-of-print models and ugly old shit. It's almost as eBay's pro-painted. Yeah, that's exactly it. You haven't got to overvalue stuff. If you overvalue it, it probably means too much to you that you don't really want to let it go. I think that's probably a good point. Paul saying, dangerous thing is some box game you sell now for 50 quid could be worth 300 in 10 years. It's a risky business. I don't see miniature game stuff going up in value that much these days, mate. If it was that much, people would start reprinting it anyway. And when it comes down to things going up in value, they go up in value in relative terms, like as in like just with inflation and stuff as well. So for example, like start collecting boxes from Games Workshop have gone up in not in value, but they've gone up in price over the years. So that's just because they've gone up. So it's more expensive to buy them now than it was back then. But then I'd have had that money to spend on something else if you like. Fly Mama says, give a bunch of freebies from craft magazines to a buddy this morning. They kept trying to pay me. But even just doing things out of goodwill, even that's like a nice thing to do. Pass it on, pay it forward kind of thing. Mark saying he's got Star Saga Kickstarter to unload. Wow, mate, you must have quite a bit of gear to get rid of there as well. Yeah, VJ saying it's down to 69 now. Don't think we're going to make the 100. It comes and goes, mate. It goes up and down. But one week we'll hit that 100 again. It just depends. If I talk about GW, we'll get 100 viewers. Don't worry about that. Peter saying, I need to take note of what's been said tonight. My hobby room is so crowded, I literally cannot get to the playing table. Yes, mate. Mine is in a similar place as well. And Gene's saying there, never sell a sentimental item. Not only will you regret it, you'll probably ask too much and keep it. Yeah, exactly, mate. That's exactly what I was saying. If you want too much for it, it's probably worth too much to you, and you might as well keep it. Faberbook says, I have a laser cutter and make gaming accessories for myself, then in my gaming group, then sold to some people through Facebook. Now like a side business, but it's time consuming. And that's a case of weighing it up, isn't it, mate? Are you making enough from it that it's worth your time and effort? Do you just get enjoyment from doing it? It's one of those things, isn't it? And Faberbook says, time's not easy to come by, and I need to balance that with my main job. I have no intention to leave it and go full-time on a hobby. Yeah, and that's exactly what I'm talking about tonight. I'm not suggesting anybody kind of sort of quits their day job and tries to sell minis on eBay as a full-time hobby. It's more about, can you just do things a little differently with what you already have or that kind of stuff? Can you do something with what is sitting on your shelf, gathering dust, that doesn't mean anything to you, to enable you to make your hobby sustainable and cost neutral, and maybe even make a bit of money on the side as well. Skullmine says price of balloons have gone up recently due to inflation. And he's back. Palmsy says, how much is Hero Quest to buy now and how much would you have sold it for second hand at the time? I've got no idea how much Hero Quest. I think there's more kicking about than you'd realise. I don't think it's actually that valuable. Like, even if I could sell it for like 150 quid or something, it's not that much in the grand scheme of things. It's worth more to me to be able to keep it and keep that little bit of memorabilia. Even if I hand it down to my kids when they get a bit older and stuff, like it's just that one. It's that game that got me first started in a hobby. Really, it's definitely worth more to me. Gene says, I'd sell that in a heartbeat. No sentimentality to me. If I found it cheap, I'd paint it to sell. I think you might even get less for it by painting it, to be honest, mate, because people want the original stuff. And by the same stretch, I can't imagine you'd pick it up that cheap in good enough condition, really. So, Jackson, Hero Quest can go from £80 to £120. I've seen the expansions can be 50 to 100. Yeah, I've got the original Hero Quest and I've got 2 expansions as well. But I wouldn't, I ain't looking to sell it. Mark says, do I have enough stuff to sell off and quit my job? Mark, I bet you've got enough stuff to sell it off and start your own business. Never mind quit your job. Gene saying, find the right rub and that can make you a coin. You need to find that sap and not be emotionally invested. Yeah, I agree. And Joel saying you can easily get £70 to £80 for Hero Quest. If I had to buy Hero Quest now, if Hero Quest was reprinted and I had to buy it, you can imagine it would be 100 quid. So there's no point in me ever selling something like that. Paul is there saying he got Kill Team starter box for that. Mark saying my kids played the heck out of Hero Quest. Yeah, I played it quite a bit when I was younger as well. King John says Hero Quest is worth so much more because it won't be reprinted. I think it's still not worth that much. It's not as rare as you'd think it is. That's the problem. Skullmuncher saying he's got a Song of Ice and Fire Kickstarter, and that's gone up hugely since I got it. Luckily, I'm looking to sell mine. That must be because nobody else has been able to buy stuff for that, have they? That's half the problem. Richard's saying, I wonder if Battlemaster is worth anything. Not too attached to that. Yeah, I've never even played it before, mate. I've got no idea. And Joel says, yes, you should get a bit for Battlemasters. Nice one. Well, I'm going to have a quick drink, folks. My throat's starting to dry out a little bit now. Oh, so I have actually managed to catch up with a chat tonight. So that's not too bad at all. So then, folks, who's up for the £10 challenge? Who wants to kind of give it a go? I'm going to be doing it. I'm going to see what I can do. See if I can turn that £10 into something else. And as I said before, I'm saving every spare penny I can. I've been fortunate that I have a work bonus coming, which is allowing me to pay for my flights to Adepticon. So I'm really looking forward to that. That's coming up thick and fast now. I must remember to fill in my ESTA to make sure I actually get out of the country for that one. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. Anybody that is going to Adepticon and wants to kind of say hi while you're there, please do give me a shout. I've had some really, really kind offers of lifts from the airport to the hotel and stuff, and people want to sort of like just to stop by and say hello. So I'm looking forward to all of that stuff. But it's the first time for me, and potentially could be the one and only time I get to go. So I intend to make the most of it. Really, really looking forward to that. Kieran saying, I have Blood Bowl minis from the 90s. That's just been stripped of the way I painted it. Not going to do anything with it. To eBay it goes. I've got an older version of Blood Bowl as well. Not the original one, but probably one of the last printed ones before it went to the newer version, of which I've got as well, which I don't play. So these are the kind of stuff. See, that's not a bad shot. I could maybe paint up those kind of the 2 teams from Blood Bowl and sell that box game on. Peterson, he'll join in once his £10 balloon sells. Flying Mama saying, night all, thanks for the natters. Thanks for popping in, Ruth. Nice to see you. Where are we at? So who's taking part in the Kings of War Slow Grow campaign? Who's taking part in the painting challenge on the BlackJack Legacy page? Be good to see how people are getting on. Find out what's happening there. Let me know what games you're planning to play this week. Anybody got a games night coming up? Is there anything else that you kind of have you got hobby stuff that you're fancying sort of doing this week? Be good to know what everybody's up to for the last kind of 10 minutes or so. Mark saying we're looking forward to seeing you at Adepticon. Looking forward to that first pint. Me too, mate. I'm looking forward to that first pint as well. It'll be good. Peter saying you might take it as a balloon salad if it takes off. You fill it with helium, mate, it'll take off. Steve says, how was your dwarves coming along? They're coming along all right, mate. I've been doing a little bit more prep work on them. Doing a little bit more basin work and stuff. So I haven't really got anything to show for it yet. But my next couple of units are coming along. And yeah, I'm really enjoying doing it. I'm well ahead of my 250 points. I think I measure 700 and something like that. So I'm not far off my first 1,000 points now. But I'm painting it up in an order of so that it's playable basically. So it fits the rules for kind of building an army and stuff. So it's in the right order of. The only thing I need to do, I think I need a hero model to paint up. But that'll be good. Everything else is kind of working out well. Gene saying, have a good one all. Last shift to get out of the way. Don't work too hard, buddy. Hope you're well. King John said he's painting Frostgrave stuff. Nice one. When's the new version of Frostgrave coming out? That can't be too far away now, is it? Christian says he's just got a hero to paint to get to 250 points. Nice one, mate. I like the way you've planned your army out. You're doing it the right way as well. Mark says he's in the slow grow as well and needs to paint tonight. Well, after a bit of editing. Yeah, editing can suck your time up, mate, can't it? Faberbrook says initially would have painted them, but slow grow and weekly live helped me overcome general laziness on Monday evenings. That's another thing. I mean, these live streams and stuff like that, it might not be, every topic might not be for you, but sometimes it's just having that little bit of kind of like the noise in the background, the company, the chat from people, kind of diving in and out while you're sitting doing a bit of painting. It makes you feel like you're kind of part of a bit of a painting group at times. Bruce is saying, I just got into Ragnarok heavy metal combat in the Viking Age thing. I like the sound of that, mate. I remember listening to it. I think it was Paint All the Minis did an interview with the guy that created it, and it sounded really interesting. He says he'd like to see more YouTube content on actual gameplay, so I'm working on his warband now. Nice one, Bruce. It's a shame those kind of games that they don't get more coverage, and it's that chicken and egg thing that you tend to find a lot of channels that cover them just don't get the views to make it worth their while, and the ones that maybe care less about the views maybe don't necessarily put the time and effort into it a little bit. So it's a fine balance, but yeah, it's a shame. There are loads of games that deserve much more love, definitely. Where are we at? Paul saying he's finishing his Breezegrave Growth people and then trying to decide between starting Blackstone or Kings of War. Oh yeah, your Kings of War stuff come as well, mate, didn't it? Those goat people thing, mate. No, it was the other ones that you painted. The other ones look really cool. Skullman says he's just finished up the last of his 250 points for the slow grow. Nice one, fella. And his Blood Bowl team's finished. Just needs basing for the painting challenge. It's good to see people engaging in this. This is exactly what we wanted. Tony saying he's in the slow grow. Had to retire from the colour painting challenge as the Kings of War project is filling your hobby time. You can enter them in both, mate. If you're painting your your Kings of War stuff in a bit of a colour you wouldn't normally use, bang it in the same challenge as well, mate. There's no sort of hard and fast rules. Tim Kelly says, what's the slow grow target for next month? For next month, mate, the target is 500 points. So it's 250 points a month. But if you're literally just starting now, just 250 points a month, mate. If you can catch up over time, sometimes you might paint a model that I've got a model I've painted which is over 250 points on its own, and that gave me a massive leap forward. So it's definitely worth still kind of taking part and getting involved in the slow grow if you fancy it, because you'll catch up at some point. Jackson, he's painted a ton of Kings of War Ogres this month. You've blasted through them, mate. 4 Chariots and 28 Ogres. Finish with Goblins and an Iron Blaster next. So yeah, nearly a full army. Nicely done, mate. Jippin saying plays games tonight. Warcry and Aeronautica. I quite fancy a game of Aeronautica just to give it a try, actually. Andy says, see you all next week. I got a caller for this evening. See you, Andy. Thanks for coming in, mate. Kieran says, this weekend, Burrs and Badgers with hobby buddies. Kung Fu Panda board game with the kids and one of 20 fighting fantasy books I picked up for $5 from a charity shop. That's a nice find, mate. That is a nice find. Skullmuncher said he bought Lady Ona for Kings of War. She's about 265 points. I need her for a busy month. Yeah, mate, that's how it pans out, mate. So yeah, and that's kind of what I was saying to Tim. There are certain models that will just push you past them kind of those milestones quite quickly. Richard's finishing his Rocktusk Prowler, then his Untamed Beast will be ready for a run out. I love that Rocktusk Prowler model. Faberbook, I should say. Weekend is monthly Kings of War gaming day here in Berlin, Germany. If anyone is curious about the game, come and meet us. If anybody is Germany based close to Berlin, please do get in touch with them. Jippin says, Kings of War rulebook finally arrived Friday, so I've read and written out what my old GW models can be used for. That rulebook's nice though as well, mate, isn't it? They've done a cracking job on that. Paul says, I enjoy the topic. I like these open conversations. Sometimes it's nice to kind of get away from the hype and get away from just talking about games all the time. It's the kind of stuff that if you went to meet your mates down a local hobby shop and you were just hanging around having a cup of coffee or having a beer or something at a convention, it's them kind of conversations that you would just sit and chat about. That's what I kind of like to bring in. I will talk about games and I will talk about the new stuff and I'll talk about reviews and all them kind of things. But certain topics are better as a bit of a live chat like this where we can interact than they are as a one-off video, definitely. What we see where you are. Al Krabby says this may be wildly out of character, but I'm painting Raven Guard. That's from a small game called 40k. Raven Guard were my first ever army, mate. I painted a Raven Guard chapter for 40k when I first started painting minis. And I must admit, when the new ones came out recently, I did get that kind of that call to maybe go back and paint myself a little small, maybe even a kill team force of Raven Guard stuff. You don't have to shy, mate, away from 40k, mate. I know the thing with this group of people is it tends to be less kind of 40k focused. That's not because 40k is an awful game or anything like that. It's just because I think 40k players tend to stick to their own little 40k groups because they don't play anything else and they don't want to talk about anything else. Where I know you're a more balanced hobbyist, mate. You might not be painting and playing other things, but you like to be part of the community, and that's cool. So yeah, never feel bad about talking about 40k, mate. Tell me what you're doing. Show the pictures. I want to see them. Don't worry about that. Steve saying just finished his elf and his Rorder halfling armies this weekend, and he's got 1 unit left for his abyssals. 1 unit left for his abyssals. You just fly through it. Undead next, mate, eh? Richard Smith said he's got Death Guard Chaos Lord conversion to do to make up his 1,000-point force. Rob saying he's finishing game board for Terminator Genesis. I'm looking forward to seeing that, mate. Starting another warband for Warcry, and he's torn between playing the game of All Out War or Dungeon Saga. Ooh, I haven't played Dungeon Saga in ages. Chris has got his Gaz Makari models that are coming, have spurred on a war in his hobby room. Assembled 209 Orc Boys this past week. God, that's commitment to the cause, mate. Yoakum says going to paint up his Carnival in miniatures in terrain now. Good night, folks. Thank you for coming in, Yoakum. Really glad to see you here. Fatman Gaming says we'll always give you a game at Aeronautica, Andy. Yeah, I'll have to make that trip north at some point, Craig. Christian is saying goodbye to Yoakum there. Well, we're coming up to the last 5 minutes or so now, boys and girls. My throat's drying out. I've got this cold. I can't seem to shift it. My nose is just constantly kind of like bunged up and full of crud. And I've kind of had it on and off since New Year's Eve. I can't shift it. It's getting right on my nerves. Oh, Chris is saying he's cheated there. There were Assault on Blackreach Oaks. I still got some of them. I found them in a box the other day in the garage when I was looking for something else. I've still got some of those. This just goes to show the amount of stuff I've got tucked away that I'll never see the light of day. But I'm going to kind of keep a track of what I'm selling and what I've sold, and just try and show. It'll either show what a fool I've been over the years and how much crap I've bought, or it'll show that it's possible to kind of like to turn a bit of a profit from selling old stuff. Tony said he's looking forward to painting up his greater obsidian golem and hexcaster for the February deadline. Yeah, it'll soon be here, man. It'll soon be here. I'm going to have to try and get ahead, I think, because March is going to be a busy month for me. I've got lots of stuff happening in March. So yeah, I definitely have to try and get ahead, I think, for then. We've got Possible Trasks just popped in as well. It says evening. He's late because Monday night is board game night. Good stuff, mate. I'm glad you're having a board game night. Richard said, fantastic show tonight, mate. Great topic, great chat. Thank you very much, buddy. Much appreciated. And Steve is saying night to Tony there as well. So then, folks, I think I'm going to call it there because I'm kind of running out of steam here. So I potentially might do something tomorrow night as well because my wife's away with work for a few days. I've had to cobble together this setup in the living room. So potentially I might just do another stream or something tomorrow night. So is anybody around tomorrow? Does anybody fancy that? I wonder if I just get some paints and sit and do a bit of painting while we sit and chat or something like that. A bit of a random one. No particular topic. We just sit and have a natter or something like that. So if anybody's up for a Tuesday painting session, let me know either here or let me know in the Facebook group or something. And I'll see if it's kind of worth setting this up or if I just put a film on and sit and do some painting myself. But yeah, let me know. Tim saying he's going to catch up. Pretty sure he's getting the Kings of War rule book off the kids tomorrow, birthday boy. Nice one, mate. Yeah, you'll fly past it, mate. Don't worry about that. It'll be cool. Peter saying, brilliant chat. See you tomorrow. Joel saying he's got a board game night on tomorrow as well. And yeah, Jack's saying a good night as well. Tony saying he can do it as well. I think if we got a few people, it might be worth me just kind of switching the camera on. I'm going to sit and do some painting anyway, so let me have a think about it. I'll see how my day at work's gone tomorrow and see whether I'm lively enough for it. But I will see those of you who have joined the Patreon or who are members here on YouTube. Please do come across to the Discord group where we can kind of hang out and have a chat in there as well. Continue this chat on. For those of you that would like to join the Patreon, please do consider. It really does help me, and very soon will be my income as well. So looking forward to making that happen. So take care, everyone, and I will see you in the next live stream.